And welcome back to the channel. Today is December 9th, and we've got our 5 best bets for college basketball here on this Monday. And I kid you not, there's only 5 games today. Like, we literally have no other choice than to predict and give you bets for these 5 games. So I'm going to get this out the way right now. I had no option. So again, the reason we're picking 22.5 point spreads is because it's the only games that there are today. So this is the best of what we can make with the situation today. Tomorrow, I believe there's more games on Tuesday. There's not many games tomorrow, but a lot more than what we have today, because obviously, again, a lot of teams playing over the weekend. You get one Big Ten game today. Obviously, that is Minnesota versus Indiana. All of my little spiel to say about that game. And then we've got some other mismatches and then some just random mid-major games. Hofstra, Norfolk State, Charleston Southern at South Carolina State. We'll get to all of those in today's video. And folks, if you have not yet, though, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below for some more daily college basketball best bets here on the channel. In an hour, we will have our NBA predictions. And I know there's only one NBA game today, but we are going to do more than just predict that one NBA game between the New York Knicks and the Toronto Raptors. We're going to go through the entire standings and just look at the entire NBA as a whole right now. So stay tuned for that. Again, that's coming out on the channel in about an hour. Our UFC Fight Night Tampa predictions were posted yesterday. Colby Covington, Joaquin Buckley in the main event for the UFC this weekend. Make sure to check that video out. Link is in the description down below. And also, if you haven't yet, make sure to go check out our 20,000 subscribers special. But more importantly, go join the 20,000 subscriber giveaway. We're giving away $100. All you have to do is do 2 things. You have to subscribe to the channel, which hopefully if you're watching this video right now, you are subscribed. But if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe. And then also make sure to follow Greedo Plays on Instagram. It is the first link in the description down below. If you do those 2 things, you'll automatically be entered into the giveaway, and we'll be drawing the winner on Saturday. So make sure you do that as we now get into our 5 best bets for December 9th, and we will start things off at Assembly Hall, Bloomington, Indiana. The Minnesota Golden Gophers go to Indiana to take on the Hoosiers. Now, I have been very critical of both these teams this season. That is no secret. If you've been watching every single day, you know that we have faded Indiana a lot and we have faded Minnesota a lot. Now, fading Minnesota has been a lot more profitable for us than fading Indiana, so that's why we're going with Indiana minus 10.5. Now, everything considered, Indiana is the better team. I clown on Indiana a little bit because, again, I went to the school last year and I got to see that team, piss the bed every single game that they played. And again, I am a huge Indiana football guy. They are going to go to South Bend and beat Notre Dame this season, or later this year in the playoffs. I hope. We'll see. But in basketball, I'm not sold on the Hoosiers. I've never been sold on the Hoosiers in basketball. Mike Woodson doesn't really do it, I think, for this Hoosiers squad. They are, better this year, I would say. 7-2, obviously. The big offseason loss, we talked about it before. Khalil Ware goes to the NBA. He's on the Miami Heat. Instead, they replace him with Ballo, obviously, from Arizona. That's fine. Indiana, when they've played big games this season, though, they have lost. With the exception of the South Carolina game, they have lost the big games they have played. We're talking about Gonzaga. We're talking about Louisville. They got blown out in both those basketball games. Since then, though, they've won 3 in a row. Providence, Sam Houston, and Miami of Ohio, a game where they covered by half a point. Oh, we were on the Red Hawks, and it didn't go our way. We are taking Indiana to cover the 10.5 points, though, against Minnesota, because Minnesota is absolutely awful at basketball. This is by far the worst team in the Big Ten. They are. Dawson Garcia is the entire team, and then once you get past Dawson Garcia, it's Lucy Patterson, and then really nobody else. Mike Mitchell as well, but no, Minnesota's really bad. This is a team that lost to North Texas at home earlier this season, a North Texas team that went to High Point University and lost. They, barely got by Central Michigan, barely got by Omaha, lost to Wichita. I know they were close in that game, but lost to Wake Forest, barely covered against Bethune-Cookman, and then just got blown out in their Big Ten opener against Michigan State. I am serious. Minnesota is the worst team in the Big Ten. The only team that maybe can compete with them are the Washington Huskies after watching their abysmal performance the other night against the USC Trojans. I was for a little bit saying, USC's the worst team in the Big Ten. No, it's Washington. I think. But no, UW's probably better than Minnesota. They do play this season, and Washington will have to go to Minneapolis to play the Golden Gophers. Again, though, this team doesn't really score that much. If Dawson Garcia is not on, the entire team's screwed. He averages 19 and 7. Again, he's their entire team. But Dawson Garcia, like, he's good, but I don't even think Dawson Garcia is that guy who can, like, take over a game and just, will Minnesota to victory in Big Ten play. Again, against the mid-majors, sure, that's how they're going to win, but against other Big Ten schools, I really don't think that's a winning formula. For as much as I want to hate on Indiana, I do think they're a better squad. They've got an all-around better team. We're talking about Malik Reneau. We're talking about Mackenzie Mbaka. We're talking about Omar Bala. We're talking about Miles Rice, and then there's just everyone else, like Trey Galloway, who needs to find a job. I'm joking. But there's Trey Galloway, who's old, he's like 24, 23, still playing college basketball. They've got the guys off the bench, too. I mean, Gabe Cupps should be a player eventually for this Hoosiers team. Same thing with Anthony Leal. I mean, these guys should be big-time players for the Hoosiers in the next couple seasons. But right now, again, it is still Reneau, it's Mbako, it's Balo, it's Miles Rice, too, who's had a really good season so far this year as well. Indiana's just a better squad. I don't really know. I don't think playing at Assembly Hall is as hard as it used to be, obviously, like back in the day, obviously, when, hell, I mean, we can go back to when Trace Jackson Davis was playing, and obviously in Jalen Hood-Schifino, or even all the way back to, obviously, when this team was the number one team in the country with Victor Oladipo. Playing at Assembly Hall, I don't think is as hard as it used to be, I'll be honest with you, at least going to the games last season. Like, I don't think going to Assembly Hall is that difficult right now, and be honest, especially right now, which is crazy to say, Indiana is trending more to being a football school right now. I don't think, again, especially on a Monday night where tickets are literally $2 to go to this game, I don't think playing at Assembly Hall is all that difficult. But still, just matchup-wise, Indiana's the better squad. They just are. I mean, I'm still not, like, again, I don't think Minnesota is that good. Dawson Garcia is their only real scorer on this team. Randomly, Lucy Patterson will hit some shots, sure. Mike Mitchell will randomly hit from beyond the arc as well. But I mean, Lucy Patterson's a guy who shoots a lot of threes and shoots 22% from beyond the arc. Dawson Garcia can't get it done, but he is really the only guy. And they are so low scoring. They have lost to North Texas this season. They almost lost to Omaha, Nebraska. It's not a good team. We're taking the Indiana Hoosiers to win at home. I think we see a big night out of Omar Balo. I think, again, there'll be spots where, again, he's matched up with Dawson Garcia. I think he'll have his way. I like Mbako and Reneau in this spot. I think Indiana wins this game pretty easily, and I think they cover the 10.5 points as well. Give me the Hoosiers at home in Bloomington at Assembly Hall. Next up, we go on to the second game of today, and we go to Norfolk, Virginia for the Norfolk State Spartans, and they will be hosting Hofstra in this game. We've talked about Norfolk State some here on the channel. We have cashed with Norfolk State earlier this year as well. I actually got the chance to watch Norfolk State in person. I saw them go over to the Maples Pavilion and play Stanford earlier this season, a game where I've talked about it before. Stanford got completely bailed out in that basketball game. It was ridiculous. But I think by far Norfolk State is the best team in the MEAC so far this season. I mean, you look at the other teams in this conference. I mean, Morgan State's 5-7, Delaware State's 4-6. You got South Carolina State, who we're going to talk about in a little bit, is 4-6. We've talked about Howard before this season. They're not all that good. Like, this conference is really bad, but I do think Norfolk State is the best team amongst these squads. Of course, non-conference game here on a Monday night against Hofstra. Hofstra is a team that's 7-3. They are not bad in their own right. Win over Arkansas State's probably one of their most notable wins this season. They beat Rice as well by 5 points. They beat Seton Hall. I forgot about that. They beat Seton Hall 49-48. Yes, that is a real score of a basketball game. 49-48 was the win for Hofstra. Again, that goes to show how bad Seton Hall is this year. But Hofstra was able to win that game. I believe this was a tournament game, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it was in Nassau, or not Nassau, at the Nassau Coliseum on Long Island. But Norfolk State, I've seen this team play this year. I like what they have. They've got guys who can score. Brian Moore is an absolute monster, man. This guy who averages 21 points a game. He shoots 70% from beyond the arc. Sure, he doesn't take that many threes, but when he does, I mean, he is good. Also, Christian Ings isn't bad either, averaging 13.5. You got Jalen Myers, Sincere McMahon, but really it is Brian Moore who is leading the charge for this team. He does it all for this squad. He attacks the rim. He draws those fouls. He's shooting 62% from the field this season. He is an absolute player for this Norfolk State squad, and he's by far their best guy, and he's going to be the one that's going to take over this game for Norfolk. Again, they're a 6-3 team this season. Hofstra's a 7-3 team, but look at the teams Hofstra's beat. We've been picking against Iona all season long. I know Iona just beat St. Peter's yesterday, but whatever. Hofstra beats Iona at home. They beat Seton Hall. They beat UMass in overtime. Lose to Florida State on the road. Lose to Houston. No shame in that. Beats Rice. Loses to Tarleton State. Beats Arkansas. And then just beat St. Joseph's Long Island in their last game. I don't know what the hell that school is. But sure, Hofstra's a 7-3 team this year, but I just think Norfolk's better. The game is in Virginia. I've seen Norfolk again. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because I have seen Norfolk in person before, but I remember when I went to that Stanford game, they were getting 22.5 points. I took the 22.5 point line. They only lost the game by 7 points, and it was a game that Norfolk should have won. Stanford shot 5 times as many free throws as Norfolk did. Norfolk shot 10% better from the field in that game. It was an absolute robbery that the ACC was pulling off in that basketball game because they couldn't have the 22.5 point dogs from Norfolk going there and beat their new ACC squad in Stanford. And now, how did Stanford beat Cal the other day? I don't know. It's ridiculous. I mean, there was 3 minutes till half, and it was a tie game, and then randomly Stanford goes on a 15-2 run, and then Cal is just screwed for the rest of the game. It's ridiculous. But I'm taking Norfolk State to win at home here over Hofstra. Hofstra's got some guys, Cruz Davis, Jaquan Sanders. I just think Norfolk's the better team, and I'm serious. The best player on this court is by far Brian Moore. By far. He is the best player on this Norfolk State team, and he's going to be the best player on the court. He is a 6'2" point guard for this Norfolk team from Harlem. But again, this is a guy who will attack the rim. He's a guy who's been much improved from last season. He averaged 9.5 points per game last year. Now he's averaging 21 for Norfolk. He came from Murray State, went on to this Norfolk team, and he is the star. I do like him again, Brian Moore, to lead Norfolk State to victory in this basketball game over Hofstra. It's not a bad spot. I know, again, we're limited to the only 5 games that we have on this slate, but really, I don't mind this spot at all for Norfolk State, a team that is just coming off back-to-back victories over Stony Brook and UC Davis, both on the road. They went all the way to the West Coast and beat UC Davis at the tail end of a week-and-a-half long road trip. That's a big victory, regardless of how bad the Aggies have been in the season. That's a good win for Norfolk State. I think they're a good squad. They're going to win their conference this season, and they're going to beat Hofstra here. Give me the Norfolk State Spartans to beat the Hofstra Pride. They'll win the basketball game minus 145, and they will cover the 2.5 points as well. Let's go into our next game here. This one's something. We've got the Charleston Southern Buccaneers, taking on the South Carolina State Bulldogs. I'm going with Charleston Southern. We've taken Charleston Southern once before this season. Didn't go our way when they played UT Rio Grande. Lost the game by 10 points. This is more of a what have you done for me lately type deal here with Charleston Southern. They've won 2 of 3 in the wins, Miami on the road and UT Martin. Yeah, they had a bye game essentially. It was a bye game for obviously the Hurricanes. Charleston Southern comes into town and beats them 83-79. Kind of just shows you where Miami Hurricanes basketball is at this season, I'll be honest with you. But a huge victory for Charleston. Again, a team that was 2-7 going into that basketball game goes to Miami and picks up the victory. After that, again, they got a home game with UT Martin, win that one. They got back-to-back huge performances. Out of RJ Johnson, who dropped 23 in the Miami victory, 30 in the victory after that against UT Martin. And then they went to Davidson in their last game and lost by 1 point on the road, 73-72. Their opponents, the South Carolina State Bulldogs, again, coming out this MEAC conference we just talked about with Norfolk State. They're a 4-6 squad this season. They've played some tough games, I'll give them that, right? The wins, Morris, Voorhees, Alabama A&M, and IU Indianapolis. Those are some bad teams. Their record is 4-6, but I want you to, again, the losses to South Carolina, the Gamecocks, that's fine. Again, they're supposed to lose that game. Xavier, Marshall, Samford, that's okay. It's the losses to Jacksonville and to Bethune-Cookman that really stand out. Jacksonville, a mid-tier ASUN team, and Bethune-Cookman is bottom of the barrel in the SWAC. The SWAC is, again, the worst conference in college basketball. So that's your benchmark. If you see a team play a SWAC squad and they don't blow them out, Minnesota the other day, obviously playing Bethune-Cookman. If you can't blow out Bethune-Cookman, or at least you can't win the game if you're a mid-major, you're not that good. Because, again, the SWAC is just that bad. I know, again, the SWAC plays bye games. That's all they do because they need that funding, obviously. Because, listen to the records of the teams in the SWAC right now. The best team right now in the SWAC is 4-4 Southern. Then 4-5 Alabama A&M, 3-5 Florida A&M, 3-6 Alabama State, 2-6 Bethune-Cookman, 2-6 Grambling, 2-7 Texas Southern, 2-8 Arkansas Pine Bluff, 2-8 the Delta Devils of Mississippi Valley State, 1-8 Prairie View A&M, and then 0-10 Alcorn State and 0-10 Jackson State. I get it. All these teams are playing bye games, sure, but listen to the teams Bethune-Cookman's played this season. Trust me, I'm going to tie this back into SC State in a second, okay? And listen to the teams that they're playing, right, and losing to. Texas Tech, Nebraska, Purdue, Fort Wayne, South Carolina State, Tulane, North Dakota, Gardner-Webb, Minnesota. Their only 2 wins are North Dakota and South Carolina State. Like, again, they're playing teams like Purdue, Fort Wayne, and getting blown out. We just saw the Mastodons lose to Detroit Mercy the other day. And I don't think the Titans are all that bad this season in the Horizon League. I really don't think they are. But Purdue, Fort Wayne beat Bethune-Cookman by 22 points. And South Carolina State lost this game to Bethune-Cookman. They went to Bethune-Cookman and lost the game by 13. Jacksonville, the Dolphins, I don't think they're as bad as Bethune-Cookman, but Jacksonville beats SC State by 9 points. I get it. The MEAC is pretty bad as well, but I don't think it's as bad as the SWAC. But my goodness, South Carolina State is not that good of a squad. Their win over IU Indianapolis is horrible. And no one on the South Carolina State Bulldogs team is all that great. Drayton Jones averages 11.5 points. He leads their team in scoring this season. He's their big, right? He's their interior guy. Wilson Dubinsky averages 9.5. Omar Krosky averages 9.5. No one on this team can really shoot it all that well. And I think Charleston Southern, they're a team that's playing with momentum. We've seen their 2 leading scorers in Taj Kelly and RJ Johnson have 4 really good back-to-back games. Taj Kelly, again, is their big. He's going to do it all. Averages 16 points, averages 8 boards. I think Charleston Southern's fine here. RJ Johnson looked really good in the back-to-back victories. I know they're on the road here, but guys, the South Carolina State faithful is just, I don't think they're going to be coming through for this game in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Yeah, give me the road team here. We're taking the Buccaneers of Charleston Southern to go on the road to South Carolina State and pick up the victory. We're going to take them to win. We're going to take them to cover the 1.5 points. But yeah, give me Charleston Southern to win the basketball game on the road against South Carolina State. Next up, we go to these 2 games that have really big spreads. We'll try to pick them to the best of our knowledge here. We're taking Pennsylvania to cover the 22.5 points over VCU. I know that's an alternate logo for the VCU Rams, but if I just put the logo that just has VCU on it, it wouldn't really fit the screen all that well. So there's the alt logo with the Ram. Yeah, I'm taking the Quakers here. I know the Quakers have been really questionable this season. We've taken the Quakers a couple times this year. I think they cashed for us early in the season against the New Jersey Institute of Technology on the road, and then we lost another game with them later on in the season. Was it Drexel? Might have been the Drexel. No, I don't know. I know we lost one on Pennsylvania later in the year. We're 1-1 picking Pennsylvania games this season. It's okay. Again, a team coming off the Ivy League. They're 3-6. I do think they're able to kind of hang around here against VCU. I know what you're thinking. VCU just blew out Georgia Southern by 35 points. But VCU, I don't know. The times I've seen them this season, they haven't looked all that impressive. I know it was in the tournament where they let Seton Hall, Seton Hall, the lowest scoring team in all of, basketball essentially, come back and beat them by 3 points. I don't know how you let Seton Hall come from behind beat you. They were down by 8 points, I think, with 4 minutes to go, and Seton Hall ends up winning the basketball game. VCU then loses to Nevada. They barely get by Miami, and then wins over Elizabeth and Georgia Southern. Who cares? I know, again, they were able to blow up Boston College earlier this season. They were able to blow up Merrimack. They were able to blow out Loyola Maryland as well. But even the Merrimack victory, they beat them by 21 points. They beat Bellarmine in their first game by 19 points. Guys, 22.5 points is a lot. They have to win the game by more than 23. That's a lot of points you're asking for VCU here. A team that, sure, is coming off back-to-back blowouts, but hear me out, it is hard to blow teams out 3 games in a row. And for this Pennsylvania Quakers team, they have guys who can score. They've got Ethan Roberts, who is not horrible. He's averaging 17 points a game. They've got Nick Spinoso, who's averaging 12 points. You got Sam Brown, who's averaging 11. Pennsylvania's got some guys. I think they're kind of able to stay in this basketball game. Now, full transparency, if we had a full slate of games, I would probably talk about the IU Minnesota game, I'll be honest with you. I'd probably mention Norfolk State, and I'd maybe even consider doing the Charleston Southern game. These 2 games, guys, this one and the next one, I would not touch. I'm just going to be honest with you. There's only 5 games today, so we're going to talk about all of them, but I wouldn't touch these 2. These are the next game's a 22.5 point line as well. I feel better about the next one, I think I do, but I'll be honest, I wouldn't touch either of these games. I do think Pennsylvania is kind of able to stick around in this game. Again, they have to play a somewhat competitive first half, and they can kind of just let VCU get away from them in the second. But I do like what this team's able to do. They have some guys who are able to score. Again, we're talking about Ethan Roberts and company, and I get it. VCU's a good squad. I'm not denying that, obviously. But I do think Pennsylvania is just able to hang around in this game. Max Shugel is good. Dropped 29 in the win over Georgia Southern the other night. But again, it is something. It is hard to blow teams out 3 games in a row. I think Pennsylvania gives them kind of a fight. VCU then goes to play their Mountain West schools coming up. They play Colorado State and they play New Mexico and the Lobos. I mean, that entire school's falling apart. Bronco Mendenhall leaves. Luke Weissong and Devin Dampier and Eli Sanders leave the football team to the transfer portal. Everything's collapsing. By the way, I mentioned it the other day with New Mexico football guys. Devin Dampier, Luke Weissong, Eli Sanders in the OC, they're all going to the University of Utah. Oh my goodness. Utah Utes football is back next season. What you saw this year with Indiana, that's what's going to happen to Utah next season. Those are the Big 12 champions next year with Devin Dampier, Luke Weissong, and Eli Sanders. I'm just saying. They are going to be great next season. Give me Pennsylvania, though, to cover the 22.5 points against VCU. Don't feel great about it, but there's the pick. As we go into our final game, we're taking another 22.5 point dog. I'm taking Abilene Christian to stay competitive with Baylor. I do feel slightly better about this one than I do the VCU Pennsylvania game, I'll be honest. Full transparency, too. There is a game at 7 o'clock. I'm not going to go to it because I don't really feel like it. Tomorrow at 7, San Jose State is hosting Lincoln University. Obviously, there's no line on that because Lincoln University is an NIAA school, I think, or are they a D2? They're a D2 school. I think they're a new school. I think they are a new school from Oakland. I wanted it, if there was a line for this game, I'll be honest with you, I would probably take Lincoln University on the plus 34.5 points they'd get, just because I'm still not impressed with San Jose State. I get they've been a lot better than I thought they were going to be this season, but unfortunately, there's no line for San Jose State versus Lincoln University, because if there was, we would hammer it, because San Jose State just played a close game with New Mexico, and at the time we're thinking, oh wow, maybe San Jose State's not that bad this season. No, New Mexico just isn't very good at basketball, so it would be a perfect buy high spot against San Jose State. But unfortunately, they're playing a D2 school, and we can't bet on it. Abilene Christian versus Baylor. This is the other game, obviously. Abilene Christian's not bad. They're really not. They've won some games this season. They did get blown out on the road to Montana State. They lost the game by 35 points, which is rough. 25 points, excuse me. Lost on the road to Kennesaw State by 6. Lost to Middle Tennessee by 23 points. Oh, God. And that wouldn't cover. Oh, God. They lost at home to Middle Tennessee by 23. Oh, yikes. Again, though, what have you done for me lately? Abilene Christian, they've won back-to-back games. Again, I don't know what you want to think about the New Mexico State Aggies right now, but they did just go on the road and beat the Lobos by 6 points. And what was their game before going on the road and beating New Mexico? At home, they lost to the Abilene Christian Wildcats. Just saying. Abilene Christian, I think, can hang around in this basketball game. Baylor has not been that good this year. I know, okay, their bye games this season, they've blown everybody out. I completely understand that. They blew out Sam Houston. They blew out Tarleton State. They blew out the New Orleans Privateers. Okay, they are coming off a loss at UConn, grueling game that they lost. And hey, UConn, we cashed with UConn yesterday. We told you they're going to go on the road to Austin and win that game. Texas isn't that good, and UConn, again, outside of Maui, the UConn Huskies are a good basketball team. Baylor, obviously, they had their really disappointing games this season, though, with, Zaga and Tennessee. But those are good schools, and UConn is still a very good school as well. I just think Abilene Christian's kind of able to hang around. They're playing with momentum, man. Again, it's what have you done for me lately? Abilene Christian has been good lately. And I think, again, they'll be able to parlay that into a somewhat close game with Baylor. Again, all we need out of Abilene Christian, just play the first half competitively. Go into halftime down by 8 points or less. And we should be fine. I hope. I really think so. Again, if there were more than 5 games, we would not be picking this one or the last game. But if you push me on a pick, I will take Abilene Christian plus 22.5. Baylor's been too inconsistent this season. I get it. They have blown out all their bye games this season. But Abilene Christian is a team on a 2-game winning streak with a big win over the Aggies of New Mexico State and a blowout win over Omaha as well. They played Southern Miss, not a bad Southern Miss squad, a Southern Miss team who, we picked to beat Alabama State the other day, right? Actually, no, Southern Miss isn't that good. But still, I don't mind Abilene Christian in the spot. Plus 22.5. Again, guys, don't bet on these last 2 games. But, there's 5 games today, so that's what we have. The first 3, though, like them a lot. These 2, sprinkle if you want to. If not, I don't blame you. Bet Bengals minus 5.5. I think that's out there tonight. So, folks, thank y'all for watching our 5 best bets for college basketball here on December 9th. We'll be back with a full slate tomorrow so we get an actual choice of games rather than, being forced to pick these 5. So, folks, thank y'all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. Folks, thank y'all for watching. And Mamba forever.